Namaste everyone. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to be here. What a insightful talk we had by Father Donald, by Professor Kanagraj and mentoring specialist Rupinder Kaur. Like he was saying, riding on the shoulders of the giants. So I'm here and let me begin with this visualization. Just this afternoon we have the Champions Trophy final and our country is playing. So imagine this, that the match is about to begin. The fast bowler, the opening bowler, is at the top of his run up. The batsman has taken stance. The umpire lowers his hand. The bowler starts the run up. He reaches the point where he has to deliver and then he stops. The ball falls from his hand. He looks down and then he walks to his captain. Imagine the captain is standing at mid off near him. So he goes to the captain and then he says, Captain, I don't think I want to continue in this match. The captain looks at him. What happened? Are you injured? Says, no, captain. Well, I can't just bear the thought that the ball I bowl may get the batsman out. So captain says, what do you mean? That's why we are here. We are here to make them all out. Says, no, captain. I can't just bear that thought that I'm going to bowl and get everybody out. Because if they all get out, then they may lose the match. The captain says, yes, that's why we are here. We want to make them lose and win the match ourselves. So he says, well, captain, I can't imagine how sad it would make them if they lose. I can't imagine their families, what will happen to their wives, their children, their relatives. They would all be miserable if they lose the match. The captain says, what are you speaking? That's why we are playing the game. We are playing the game because we want to win. So now, this may obviously look absurd, this never happens, but a very analogous situation to this happened in India about 5,000 years back. It's a huge war, two parties, and the key player in the war is about to begin. The conches have been blown on both sides, and now there's nothing left except to lift your arms and start fighting. Release your arrows. And the lead warrior on one of the sides behaves like this. He's about to shoot. And then he tells his charioteer, who is also his dearmost friend, that Krishna, I don't think I can fight this. And he gives the reasons. He says that if I fight and I kill them, then what will happen to all the people whom they are connected to? They're all my relatives, they're my cousins, they're my guru is there, my everything is there. What will happen? So this sets the stage, and this is Arjuna's words. He says, Yadi mam apratikaram ashastram shastrapanayah dhartarashtraha rane hanyuhu tanme kshemataram bhavet. Even if all these people, the sons of Dhritarashtra, they kill me without my arms, I lower my arms, let them come and kill me, I think that is better for me. Arjuna has reached that state of mind, mental state, where he thinks that getting killed unarmed without lifting his weapon by the others is a better situation for him than to visualize whatever he's visualizing, everybody becoming morose and sad and so on. So this sets the stage for one of the greatest mentor-mentee relationships that this country has witnessed, and which resulted in a book which probably became the bestseller of all time, lasted more than 5,000 years now. Right? So we have the Bhagavad-gita with us, and I would put it as historically the best example of mentoring from which we can derive certain lessons about mentoring, learning from a good mentor, mentoring others, and to play out our life in the best possible way in general. So anyone can become a mentor, the Bhagavad-gita says, but there are certain important principles to be followed. And when I was going through this, preparing for this talk, I could identify at least 5 essential principles which I wanted to share with you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. A mentee is not just a junior, someone just junior to us. He was also pointing out, there's also reverse mentoring. A mentee is a person at that point of time who requires something, who is in need. A person who is in need becomes an appropriate mentee. If you look at the relationship between Krishna and Arjuna, they are cousins. They're not just senior, junior. They're actually cousins. They know each other since a very long time. They're good friends. And that's how Krishna ends up becoming his charioteer in the war. But in this point of time, one of them is in extreme need, and the other person steps up and helps him. So he says, Krishna tells him when he says in the end of the first chapter of Gita, Arjuna says that I can't fight. He puts down his Gandiva bow and sits on the floor of the chariot. Krishna stands up and says, look, kutastva kashmalamidam vishame samupasthitam. How come this kind of weakness has overcome you just at the point of bowling the first ball of the match? He says, Anarya Jushtam Aswargyam Akirtikaram Arjuna. This will not going to take you anywhere. You're a Kshatriya or a noble person. You're supposed to be dignified. But this kind of behavior will not take you anywhere. Klaibyam masma gamaf partha naitattvai upapadyate. This does not befit you. Give up this weakness. Anarya Jushtam. He says, Shudram Hridaya Daurbalyam Yaktva Uttishta Parantapa. He says, get up. Give up this weakness of heart. Get up and start fighting. But lesson number 2 is it's not easy to convince a mentee, especially when he's in this kind of situation. This is when the mentee needs the mentor the most, but it's the situation in which the mentee is not willing to accept. The mentee does not recognize that they need a mentor. Very often this happens, and Arjuna is unwilling to listen. He says, eventually, when he sees Krishna persisting, he says, Karpanya dosho pahata swabhava. This is in the second chapter of Bhagavad-gita. He says, Prichami tvam dharma sammudha chetaha yat shreyasyat nishchitam bruhi tanme shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. I'm overcome by complete weakness. Karpanya dosha means the mentality of a miser. Here, intellectual miser, not money-wise miser, but my mind is completely confused. In that sense, I'm a miser. So please guide me. Please, I'm like your disciple now. I'm no longer your friend. I'm your disciple. Please help me. And this is the attitude with which a mentee ought to go to a mentor. Please help me out. I really don't know what to do. There's no senior, junior, nothing, no other consideration here. And what is the mentor's job at this point of time? It's not just to give advice. It's not like sending an email, right? Just write something and tell him, you do this, everything will be all right. No, the mentor has to understand the mentee thoroughly. Only then the mentoring is effective, right? So you can see in the Gita how Krishna goes about systematically. Initially, he speaks these 2 shlokas which I just uttered, and he tells him get up and fight. But very quickly he realizes that no, this is not going to work. Just telling him get up and fight, he's not going to do that. I need to understand what he's thinking, what his mindset is. Where is the confusion coming from? Let me first understand that and then advise him accordingly. So thinking like this, Krishna begins to speak and it goes on and on. He's not easy to convince. He realizes that this person has to be told a lot of things before he can understand why he should do this simple thing of standing up and fighting, which is what he's supposed to do. It's easy to say it in just a few words, but he can't understand it. So I need to say a lot of more things to make him understand what he's supposed to do and why he's supposed to do it. So as a result, we have the whole Bhagavad-gita. In the Gita, there are 701 shlokas, out of which Krishna speaks 579 shlokas. Arjuna speaks 86 in that conversation, and the balance is spoken by some of the others. So Krishna has to go into a lot of detail and eventually ends up giving us a lot of knowledge about reality around us, about the principles of existence. He covers Atma Jnana, Ishvara Jnana, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, the 3 gunas of Prakriti, Ishvara Jnana. He talks about Daivi and Asuri Bhav, so many things which are all relevant to people in different walks of life, and that's why this book has become a book. It's no longer just an exchange between a mentor and a mentee. It's something that so many other people who were not there at that time also have cherished. So the lesson is the mentor should first understand the mentee very well before they can actually give anything useful to the mentee. The next lesson is the mentor must be very patient, perseverant, and very kind to the mentee. It requires kindness. Must not lose his patience, must not become angry. Mentee will ask questions, mentee won't understand. The mentee will, sometimes resist, offer resistance. The mentor should never become angry. I remember my own personal experience long, long back, maybe 25 years back. My father came to me and said, "Oh, this computer, what is it? Let me, I want to learn how to use a computer." And I eagerly jumped in. I said, "Yes, Papa, I'll teach you." I started teaching him, and I realized that, he doesn't learn. And very, very quickly, I became irritated. I became angry. I started scolding him. "You can't understand this much. It's so easy. Just click on this." And my father was struggling to hold the mouse. I became even more angry. I said, "You can't hold this small thing. You're doing so many things." So I kept scolding him, and getting angry, losing my temper with him. Ultimately, reverse mentoring happened. My father started telling me, "Look, I don't want to learn the computer anymore, but now I have to tell you that this is not the way that you will do anything useful in life. First, learn to become patient, then you can do something." Okay, so I ended up learning from my father, as I should. So a mentor has to be extremely patient, has to empathize, feel what the mentee is feeling, and go with them, and never lose temper, regardless of what the mentee asks, behaves, how he behaves. Be very patient, be very persistent. So this is actually the probably the best form of kindness that the mentor can gift to the mentee. And finally, last lesson is that the mentor eventually should give the choice of what to do to the mentee. After having been patient, persistent, and gone along with the mentee for long enough time, the mentor realizes that now there's nothing more to tell. I've already told him everything. I understood what he wants. Now I have to leave it to him or her, what they want to do. So the mentor should not think that, okay, because I told all these things, now the mentee has to do only what I said. Fine, I've given my best and now it's their choice. And they will understand by facing the consequence of whatever they do. So the mentor gives the mentee the choice of what they want to do, leaves it to them, and allows them to learn by experience. This is the final thing, and we see this in the Gita too. After 18 chapters of giving advice, Krishna realizes that I have told everything that I have to tell. So he says, "Iti me jnanam akhyatam guhyat guhyataram maya." He says, I have told you something that's more secretive than even the greatest secret. Then he says, "Vimrishya etad asheshena." Think over this carefully. Vimrishya etad asheshena means think over this comprehensively. Carefully think over whatever I told you. Yatha ichchasi tatha kuru. Do whatever you think is the best thing to do. He leaves it to Arjuna. And this is the final thing. The mentor has to have that maturity to say that I will not be angry regardless of what the mentee does. I will respect the mentee for what choice they make and leave it to them. And I'll be available in the future too if they come back to me. And when Krishna does this, Arjuna eventually stands up and he says, "Nashto moha smritir labdha tvat prasadat achyuta." He says, "Stitosmi gata sandeha karishye vachanam tava." He says, "Now, Krishna, after you said this, all my doubts are clear. Now I have understood why you said all these things, and now I'll get up and fight." So the whole narrative is a narrative of inspiration. It shows how the mentor has to be extremely patient, kind, and so on. It shows how a mentee can be thoroughly confused. And that's the nature of being a mentee, right? And that's the nature of being a mentor. And when the two come together, something useful is created. So I will leave you with this last suggestion. So much mentoring and menteeing has happened between you. Just like the Gita is a record of that conversation. And that record has not been useful only to that particular mentee, Arjuna, but has been useful to so many others, right? Including some of our own country's greatest leaders. They have mentioned how the Gita has influenced them positively. Mahatma Gandhi, President Kalam, President Radhakrishnan, and so many others too. Similarly, the conversations that you have had, exchanges that you have had, if they are properly documented, it's also called knowledge management today. You might be able to withdraw insights from them and use them for the future. Maybe, who knows, maybe one day somebody among you can create a brilliant book out of that. Okay, think over it. I leave you with that, and thank you once again for giving me an opportunity to speak to you and share these insights. Pranam to you. Thank you.